guys, this is Kristen with Mermaid Wax. I'm going to talk to you about tipping your waxer. So before I dive in, if any of y'all have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to comment down below, like and subscribe. Don't ever hesitate to reach out because I love helping you all. So tipping your waxer. Okay. Tipping can always be like a sensitive topic, right? I know it can be confusing, like what type of services are customary to tip and which ones aren't. And I've had so many people ask me, like customers ask me, like, how much should I tip? Like, what's a good tip? So I kind of wanted to clear the air. Okay. So in short, yes, it is customary to tip your waxer. Personally, I've always tipped anyone who's in the service industry. So whether it's someone that's like coming to my house to do work, obviously restaurants and stuff like that, anyone, whether it's like nails, waxer, hair, I pretty much tip everybody. I think it's just because I grew up in the service industry, being a waitress for a while, and then getting into waxing, and so like I never want people to not think that I don't appreciate what they're doing for me. But I also know that not everyone is the same, and some people don't tip, and that's fine. So let's kind of like get into the dirty details. If you are going to one of like the larger chain waxing companies, so like European Wax Center, Waxing the City, stuff like that. I don't know what Waxing the City, what they're like how they pay their employees, but I at least can give you like my own feedback from working at European Wax Center. Now I worked at European Wax Center for, let's see, it was like 12 years ago. And they, let's see, they paid me $8 an hour, 4% on services. And then they had some like other, like small bonuses that you could get every month, which like, I think most of them were like, if you sell a certain amount of product in that, like that period of time, then you get a bonus, which I never hit those bonuses because I hated their products, like the skincare. I didn't think it worked. I thought it was terrible. So me not being a good liar and not wanting to lie to my clients, I didn't do great at selling their skincare. So I didn't really get those bonuses, but that's fine, whatever. So yeah, $8 an hour, 4% on services, and then like some extra, like smaller bonuses. European Wax Center always books more people than what they actually need, like per shift. That's because they want anybody that comes in for like a walk-in or call in for an appointment, they want an open spot to be available. So because of that, it's hard to get your books fully scheduled. Obviously, if someone calls in and asks for you specifically, then you can get your books filled, but it takes time to do that. So right off the beginning, I remember them saying like, oh, you're gonna make this much money, and it all seemed great. But then when you actually start working there, you realize like, okay, that's like an absolute best case. Like everything's perfect. You're booked Brazilians every 15 minutes the entire day, which just doesn't happen. So it's always hard to get your books fully scheduled unless people are actually asking for you. So let's say now, in a best case scenario, let's say I had 4 Brazilians in an hour. So I would make the $8 an hour plus the 4% on the Brazilian would be like $2. So $2 for each Brazilian. So that's $16 total for that hour. Now that's assuming that nobody is tipping. That's also assuming that no one is on a wax pass. So if a client has a wax pass, which from my own experience, about 50 to 75% of them did, then you wouldn't get the 4% on like the retail cost of the service. They would have done it on the discounted rate because they bought a wax pass. So all of their waxes are now cheaper. So instead of like $2, you might only get $1. That's also, again, assuming that these are all Brazilians and there's not an eyebrow or an underarm or something like that thrown in there. So instead of 16, then you would go down to 12. Doing 4 Brazilians in an hour, like you're working, you're not just like sitting around on your phone. You're like constantly going in and out, especially if somebody's late. That always messes up your entire schedule because then it's going to push everyone back slightly. It's just a nightmare. So if you are going to one of those larger chain waxing places, please tip your waxer. They are not making a lot of money hourly, so they survive on tips. I once had a client, I had just started working at European Wax and I'd only been there for a couple of months, and we waxed her whole body. So it was a full face, underarms, full arms, stomach, full back, Brazilian, full butt, and full legs. And it took me like 3 hours, something like that. I just started out, so I was really slow. And I remember like at the end of it, I was exhausted, but I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what she tipped me. Like we had a great conversation, like everything went well. And I went to the front desk to go check, and she did not tip me at all. And I was devastated. I cried. But it taught me a good lesson, and that was don't ever expect a tip, because you're just going to get disappointed. Now, in general, I'd probably say at least 75% of people would tip you, anywhere from like 5% to like 20%. But it all just kind of depends. So if now let's say you are going to a place to get waxed where it's like the person, it's their own business, they own their own salon. So when you're paying them for the wax, they are getting all of that money. Luckily, they get to make so much more because they get to take all that money from that service, and it's theirs. They're not having to give, most of it to some corporate person above. Now they also have to pay for the things like rent, the wax itself, other materials, marketing, the website. So they're doing a lot of other things that they don't get to keep all of that money, obviously, but they get to keep so much more than if they're working for somebody else, especially one of the bigger chain places. So in that instance, I still recommend tipping because I'm just a chronic tipper, but I would say you have a little more leeway. So when I did the pricing for my own salon, I made sure that I did my pricing based on, let's pretend they're not going to tip you. What do I want to make? And that would be what the pricing was for it. That way I never expected a tip, but if they did, great. But then if they don't tip, I'm not mad and I'm not upset, because that's just like a lot of negative energy, which you don't want to bring that into your business. So that's a big recommendation that I have, is always do plan out your pricing based on, if they don't tip, what would you be happy with? And that will help a lot. So there is, in my opinion, more leeway if they own their own salon versus if they are working for some large chain. But overall for tipping, I would say anywhere from like 10 to 20%, and your waxer would be thrilled. This is my own opinion. I hope this helps somebody. So thank you for watching. Bye guys.